Hello, and welcome into the 60 feet 6 inches LSU pod. Thank you for joining me. In this episode, we'll be going over the weekend series for the LSU baseball team as they took on the visiting Missouri Tigers. What were the three big things we learned from this series? How did I do on the Get Right, Stay Right list? And what lies ahead this week for your Tigers?
Now Warren Morris hits a deep drive down the right field line. That ball is gone! LSU wins the College World Series on a home run by Morris.
So thank you for tuning in. If you're listening on audio for the first time, the 60 feet 6 inches LSU pod is available on Apple, Google, Spotify, and other audio platforms. If you're viewing this on the 60 feet 6 inches LSU pod YouTube channel, please make sure and subscribe to the channel. Hit that like button, comment, and hit the notifications bell. And on Twitter, you can follow me at 60FT6IN LSU pod. That's at 60FT6IN LSU pod. Make sure to follow the account, set your notifications, and interact with me on Twitter. As always, I'd like to thank everybody for liking and retweeting all of my tweets and all the comments y'all send me. I try to interact as much as possible, so I really do appreciate that support. Before I start off, just a quick shout out to LSU this weekend for hosting the 1997 National Championship team, which I was a member of. We had a 25-year reunion, so it was really great to see guys I hadn't seen in a long time and some guys I hadn't seen in a couple years. It was great to see Coach Burtman and Coach Dan Canterbury, and Mike Bianco was on that staff, but obviously he has other things to do with regards to coaching Ole Miss. But just a lot of love out there to my brothers. I love those guys, and they really helped shape me and into the competitor I was and to the man I am today. But I just want to, if those guys are tuning in, I just want to say a big thanks, and I had a blast with those guys this weekend. So hopefully more things to come on that front as maybe I can get those guys together and do something around regional time. So anyway, let's get into it. What a great weekend for your LSU Tigers as they sweep Missouri at home, which was very much needed in my opinion as they begin the second half of SEC play. So LSU won 5-3 on Thursday, 4-3 in 10 innings on Friday, and then on Saturday they capped it off with an 8-6 victory. So it was important, I thought, with LSU to really jump out and get ahead, as Missouri, as we talked about in the preview, is a very aggressive team. So LSU jumped ahead in 2 of the 3 games this weekend. The pitchers did a good job. They really didn't allow the Missouri offense to get going early and kept them from having those big innings we discussed, those crooked numbers, as we like to call it here on the LSU pod. Out of the 28 innings all weekend, Missouri only scored more than 1 run in 3 innings, which in my opinion was huge. They scored 2 runs, 2 runs, and 3 runs in those 3 innings, which was a great job by the pitching staff in really eliminating those big innings that Missouri has had in previous SEC contests. On the weekend, the LSU pitchers only allowed the leadoff hitter to reach base 6 out of 28 times, with 4 of those 6 coming on Saturday. So that was enormous. If a team likes that big innings, the easiest way to stop that is to get the leadoff guy out first. And they kept an aggressive hitting team off the base paths as well. So kudos to the team all the way around. Let's start off with the Thursday night game. LSU wins 5-3. And really, to me, the story of the game was Jacob Berry and Mikhail Hilliard. You know, Berry goes 3 for 4 with 2 solo home runs and a single in the 5th when LSU scored 3 runs to really pull away. So he just continues to rake and show why he is a first-round pick this year and one of the best hitters in the country. Missouri, I noticed on Thursday night their pitchers were really trying to bust the LSU left-handed hitters in on the inside part of the plate with a fastball, but that really didn't work against Berry too much as he made them pay. And then on the other hand, you have from the pitching staff, you just have kind of the captain of the ship, you know, Mr. Steady Eddie, Mikhail Hilliard. He's been a huge bright spot and a much-needed one for the starting pitching staff this year. And he's really solidified that first game of SEC series, whether it's on a Thursday or Friday. And so he just did the job again as he usually does. He went a career-long 7 innings pitched, gave up 7 hits, 2 runs, 2 earned, no walks, which is enormous, and 5 strikeouts. He stayed out of the big innings, and he also got 7 out of the 8 leadoff men he faced out as well. So he continues to give consistent performances and really set the tone for the weekend for LSU. LSU, during the game, you know, it's kind of back and forth. Early, LSU scores 3 in the 5th to break open a 2-2 game. In that inning, Cruz hit a single, Berry hit a single, Doty followed by a double, and then Morgan followed with a single. It was kind of a weird play as a high chopper over the first baseman's head to kind of cap off that inning and score 2 runs. And right there, you just saw the big four of LSU just put, back-to-back-to-back hits together, which is enormous. It broke open that 2-2 tie. And then the bullpen closed it out that game with Raiselman, Cooper, and Gervais just slamming the door on Missouri to get that first win of the weekend. We always like to say you can't sweep unless you win the first one. So that was huge. Really set the tone for the weekend. And to me, when I look back on that Thursday game, after I had time to rewatch it and take some notes, I really felt it was one of LSU's most complete games of the year in terms of hitting, pitching, and defense. I thought the defense played really well. No errors that game. I tweeted out I really liked Missouri's pitcher, Spencer Miles. He came in with kind of some balloon statistics, not very good ERAs in conference play, and not a good batting average against, but I thought he had really impressive stuff, and he's going to make somebody a very happy organization when he gets drafted into pro ball probably later this year because he has really good stuff. And I thought they did a good job with trying to bust the LSU hitters in. That's the first team I've really seen where they pounded the LSU hitters, the left-handed hitters, hard inside with fastballs all night. And you saw Pearson, Morgan, Joe Bear really have trouble adjusting to that when he's busting them in with 92 to 94. So I wonder if that will be a blueprint moving forward for other teams versus LSU's left-handed hitters. I also noticed that Travinsky, I don't have no inside information, but I wonder if Travinsky is Mikhail Hilliard's kind of personal catcher. You see that on the big leagues a lot of times where one pitcher likes to throw to one catcher. So you've seen lately Travinsky's going to start when Mikhail pitches, and then McManus kind of comes in just like this weekend. McManus played Friday and Saturday with Travinsky getting the nod on the Thursday game. So I wonder if we'll see that to continue throughout the rest of the year in the SEC schedule. That'd be something I'll be paying attention to. But just something that I noticed. But really a nice complete game, 5-3 win, and really held Missouri at bay. And just LSU had been struggling in home series and just a way to get off to a good start. And with the potential for a sweep, which ultimately they got and ultimately they really need. So moving on to the Friday game, LSU wins this 4-3 in 10 innings. So I thought they did a really good job of hanging in there and just kind of not letting it go on all night. They did a good job of ending the game as soon as possible. Doty coming up clutch. But just some highlights for that game. So Money got the start in that game on Friday, and he only lasted 2 2/3 innings. And he had some tough luck in the third. I was surprised Coach Johnson pulled him as early as he did. I have no reason why, but obviously they didn't like something they saw from Money, unfortunately. But LSU gets it going right off in the bottom of the first with Cruz. Hits a bomb to lead off the game with a home run. Then in the third, fast forward to the third, Money gets the leadoff guy out. Then the defense kind of rears its head again. Bear lets the ball go through his legs at third and ends up being a double. Next guy singles, so it scores that guy. Then he gets a single, then a strike, and then strikeout. So we have 2 outs, so Blake Money is almost out of it. Then the hitter hits a blooper to center. Cruz dives for it. He can't come up with it. And then a couple more runs scored, and he gets pulled right there for Hasty. And I thought really you can argue whoever it was, but I thought from a pitching standpoint, Hasty was definitely the pitcher of the game. Because Hasty comes in, the guy tries to steal home on him. He's a left-handed pitcher. A guy tries to take off from third and steal home. He steps off. He throws him out. He gets out of the jam. And then from there, he just held Missouri at bay. Gives chance for LSU to get back into the game. And you've seen Hasty slowly come along these past couple weeks to where if he can get right and provide another left-handed arm out the bullpen, that is huge for LSU's pitching staff moving forward because that takes a lot of the pressure off of Cooper being the only lefty out the pen. And Hasty's got good stuff. He's 92, 93 with a really good, more of a conventional breaking ball where Cooper's got more of a sweeping slider. So if they're going to use Hasty maybe in that long role that you've seen Collins provide from the right-handed side, that's a big plus moving forward, having 2 lefties with good stuff coming out the pen. So I was really happy for him and impressed to see him come out in SEC play and just dominate Missouri and hold the game in the middle innings right there. So in the fourth, Joe Bear kind of starts to get back on track. He hits a solo bomb. In the sixth, McManus hits a solo bomb. That puts LSU up 3-2. It's like the night of the solo bombs on Friday night with Cruz, Joe Bear, McManus all hitting them. And at this point, Hasty's still dealing, and then Taylor comes in for him, and Taylor just blows absolute cheese, and he's dealing as well. In the eighth, Taylor does give up a home run to Missouri's best hitter, really their best power hitter, Luke Mann. He's a lefty. He hits over, and he goes opposite field. He hits it over the left field fence. And I believe that's his 8th home run in SEC play. So he's on absolute fire. And so that ties the game up 3-3 in the 8th. And then we get all the way to the 10th. Go to the bottom of the 10th. And it was a very interesting move by Coach Johnson. So DiGiacomo started. And in the 10th, he pinch hits Stevenson, the freshman, for Gio. So left for left against a right-handed pitcher from Missouri. And Stevenson delivers for a freshman. He does a great job. He absolutely smokes the ball into the left center gap for a double to lead off the bottom of the 10th. And then Dylan Cruz did a great job. He showed great awareness. All he wanted to do right there is move that guy from second to third. And you see that sometimes guys are a little selfish. They may try to single him in on his own. But Cruz hits a ground ball to second. They get him out. Stevenson moves to third. Then Barry comes up and walks. And then Doty gets down to an 0-2 count with 1 out. And then he smokes a fastball into the left center gap. And the celebration ensues. But just what a great job by Stevenson as a freshman in that situation to lead off with a double. And then the upperclassmen just take care of it. Cruz moves him over. Barry walks. I wouldn't want to pitch to him either. And then Doty delivers, as he's done several times this year. All the way back to the games at the Shriners Classic in Houston. So, to me, another huge job by the pen with Hasty, Taylor, Gervais, and Cooper right there. But if I had to point to one thing in this game, you continue to see LSU struggle against left-handed pitching. In this game, Missouri ran out their freshman lefty. His name was Newbeck. And then right after him, they ran out a reliever. His name was Loesch, both left-handed. And as you remember, I don't know if you saw the preview pod, but LSU is last in the SEC when it comes to hitting left-handed pitching. They're hitting at a 192 clip. And in this game, LSU was only 1 for 13 with runners on base. So once again, you saw their struggles against left-handed pitching. And I think at this point in the year, it is what it is. They're just not going to be able – there may be some games where they light up a lefty, but you've seen it with the starter from Arkansas, Hagen Smith. You saw it with Newbeck, both freshmen. Obviously, I haven't gotten into Georgia or any other upcoming SEC series to figure out if they have lefties, but that's going to be a problem moving on. And unfortunately, if you fast forward, and I think this team's definitely going to make a regional, you would just hate to face a stud lefty in a regional, or if they make a super regional, looking at best 2 out of 3. So that bugaboo could really come back to bite LSU. And some of the best hitters are left-handed, so they're just going to have to figure it out and work through it. But I think at this point it is what it is. You just have to assume they're going to struggle against left-handed pitching. LSU did have one error that led to runs, but all in all, LSU's pitching only allowed Missouri hitters to go 2 for 10 with runners in scoring position, and we talked about on the preview pod how good Missouri was at hitting with runners in scoring position, actually leading the SEC. So, once again, pitchers, they had a great scouting report. They did a good job, and they didn't let Missouri's hitters get off with runners in scoring position. So, great job by them. Moving on to Saturday. So, you got 2 wins in your pocket. Let's go for the sweep. LSU wins this one, as y'all know, 8-6. And to me, it's just huge. Anytime you can go for a sweep, especially when a team has been struggling at home. I think they're 1-6 in their last SEC series at home, which is, I'm going to be honest, completely uncalled for. You got to protect the box. To get a sweep, I don't care if Missouri is 5-10 heading into this. It doesn't matter. Anytime you can get 3 wins to start the second half of SEC play, that's enormous. And to me, it was very evident early on that Coach Jay Johnson and I'm sure pitching coach Jason Kelly, they were going to do whatever it took from a pitching staff perspective to get this win. And you saw that early on. To lead things right off, Missouri hasn't really jumped out to a hot start, even though they had done that in previous SEC games. Right off the bat, error at third by Barry. Next pitcher hits a bomb. So right off the bat, Missouri is up 2-0. Dutton gets out of it, but then he gets pulled early, and he only goes 1 2/3, which was disappointing. So, as I just mentioned, I just said that whatever it took, Coach Johnson was going to use the pitchers however he felt, however he thought they were going to be the most effective. And if he had to run through the whole staff to get that sweep, then he was going to run through the whole staff. And if you haven't noticed by now, Johnson and Kelly really run their bullpen like a Major League Baseball team. They're into analytics. They're into data. They're into lefty-lefty matchups. They'll pull guys with a 1-0 count, with a 2-0 count. They do not care. And much to LSU fans' dismay, they don't like how the game takes longer. You typically see Before they make a move, the catcher goes out to talk. Coach Johnson will go out to talk. Then he may give the pitcher a couple of pitches, depending where they are on the count, and then he'll go back out there again to make a move. So it's very labored. It's very Major League Baseball-like, but in the end, I think that is what it is this year, and that's just how they're going to run their bullpen. So back to the game on Saturday. Dutton gets pulled. Collins comes in and does a good job of allowing LSU to get a chance to get back in the game, being down 2-0. LSU scores 2 in the third, powered by a Joe Bear solo home run. The game's tied 2-2. In the fourth, boom, LSU comes right back and scores 3 off the back of a 2 RBI double by McManus to make it 5-2. And McManus went absolutely ballistic, just nuts on Saturday. He was 3 for 3 in the home run shy of the cycle. So he went off. He was seeing the ball like a beach ball on Saturday, and good for him. You know, I think everybody's kind of been waiting for him to hit. You heard that during the fall. He was a big hitting catcher. And maybe now he's just getting a little more comfortable with his role, getting used to SEC pitching. And he did a great job on Saturday, really, leading that offense. Mizzou gets one back in the fifth, but then Barry hits another solo home run in the bottom half of the fifth to make it 6-3. The next inning, Morgan doubles in a run. He does a great job, kind of inside out in a swing, and hits a rocket into a left center gap. That's kind of the Trey Morgan we all know and love. He does a great job of letting the ball travel and keep his hands inside the ball. So it's 7-3 in the seventh, and I was there at the game, and I was like, this thing's on cruise control. Maybe they score again, but I really didn't see Missouri coming back. It felt like the pitchers had everything in hand. But lo and behold, Missouri does not take their foot off the gas. They keep pressing and pressing, and they're not going to give up. And they definitely made some noise. So in the eighth, the defense comes back to hurt LSU again. So Raiselman's in. He's been throwing very well. He gets a little tired in the eighth. This is like he goes out for his third inning at this point. So he hits a batter. Then he goes 4-pitch walk. He gets pulled for Gervais. Gervais goes wild pitch, then a sac fly, which scores a run. So you got one out, men on first and third, ground ball to Thompson, and it looked like it was a tailor-made double play. Just 6-4-3, you're out of the inning, no harm, no foul. You gave up one run, but you're back in the dugout, and it's the eighth. He boots the ground ball, and unfortunately, you can't even get the force out at second. And that just extends the inning. So then, that was just really unfortunate, right? Worst time to have an error right there. Now you're wondering, is it trouble time? What's going to happen? But you're still up. It's 7-5. A run scores on that. Fontenot comes in for Gervais. Fontenot gets a K, which is huge. Great job. Then he walks in a run after that. Then he gets pulled. So Fontenot's just kind of having a little trouble staying consistent this year, and Johnson and Kelly have a short leash with him. And then Cooper comes in and gets out the jam. So it's 7-6. Bottom of the eighth, McManus crushes a triple off the center field wall. The freshman Pearson comes up with a big 2-out RBI to kind of answer right back and extend that lead to 2. And then that's it. Cooper slams the door in the ninth, and there you have it, a sweep. So just all in all, a huge series for LSU. If you divide the SEC season in half, they're 3-0. If you want to look at it like that, 3-0. You got 12 games left to go. And I said in the preview pod that if LSU can go 16-14, I think they'll be in some really good shape. But now starting off 3-0, Ole Miss drops a series. Alabama drops a series. You got a tough Georgia team coming in. Then you got to end the season at Vanderbilt. So getting this sweep against a bottom SEC East team was enormous in my opinion. All right. So let's get to the Get Right, Stay Right list. So how did I do in my predictions? I think I pretty much nailed it this week. I'm going to give myself a pat on the back. I think I called it. So let's see here. On the Get Right, I had Morgan. So on the weekend, Trey Morgan, 4 for 11. He hit 364 with 3 RBIs. He had a tough day versus the left-handed pitcher on Friday, but in the end, he came through when it needed. And I just wonder if he crowds the plate, as y'all know. I wonder if more teams are going to start busting him in. And he doesn't really pull the ball, but he's going to have to adjust if more teams start pounding him in. So it's definitely something to watch out for. But all in all, I think he kind of turned things around from a little bit of a slump he was having and really hit the ball well all weekend. So we'll take 364, 3 RBIs on the weekend every day from him. So check that off as a Get Right. I also had Thompson and Joe Bear, kind of a combination there. Thompson, he's still struggling. He went 1 for 11 on the weekend. Now he's hitting 139 in his last 10 games. That's 5 for 36. So JT is struggling a little bit and a little bit of a slump. But Joe Bear, on the other hand, you really saw him turn the corner. So he had been scuffling as well. but he hits 2 home runs on the weekend. He goes 4 for 11, and some of his outs were very loud. And I know he hit some rockets into the shift a couple times. So for him to get back on the dinger board and to go 4 for 11, which is 364, I'll take that. And I think hopefully he's starting to turn the corner as well to where we saw kind of the Florida SEC Series Joe Bear, which was monstrous. So I'll take a win on Joe Bear right there for get right. And then last, catchers. I had catchers on the weekend. I thought they needed to be good defensively against Missouri. I felt like Missouri was going to try to steal when they got on base. Luckily, they didn't get on base a ton. And I thought the catchers were clutch. You know, Missouri didn't have any stolen bases on the weekend. They got caught stealing once. And then when you look at how well McManus swung the bat on Friday and Saturday, that is definitely a get right for the catchers this weekend. So McManus goes 4 for 7 on the weekend, which is 571, hits a home run and 3 RBIs. So he definitely got right. So I got Morgan right, got the catchers right. Thompson and Joe Bear split, so I'll take 3 for 4 all day, every day. So how did I do on the stay right? On the stay right, first off, I had the bullpen. They were a little so-so at Arkansas, just 1 or 2 bad innings. That's really it. And then we look at Missouri, though. I think they did what they were supposed to, and they threw a lot of innings this weekend. So how about the bullpen threw 60% of the innings this weekend? Really due to the fact, obviously, that Money went out early and then Dutton went out early, and the bullpen just had to eat up those games. So on the weekend, the bullpen threw 16 2/3 innings, gave up 13 hits, 6 runs, 5 earned, 6 walks, which is a great job, and 24 strikeouts. So 4-to-1 ratio, which is phenomenal. And by my calculations, I had them at a 2.7 ERA for the weekend. And I thought you saw some different people step up. Hasty stepped up. Collins stepped up on Saturday. We did not see Vittmeyer this weekend. And it always seems like one weekend one guy gets left out. I think last weekend it was Collins that got left out. But they really have a lot of arms in that bullpen, maybe more so than we're used to seeing, and they're not afraid to use all of them. And I still think you see Cooper, Raiselman, and Gervais kind of in that 7, 8, 9 role, and they're kind of mixing and matching right now depending on, I think Gervais is the closer, but you saw him struggle a little bit on Saturday, his second game of the weekend, and then Cooper just came out to close it. So I think you can just kind of throw those guys on the table and figure it out, and all those guys are capable of setting up or closing games. So very impressed by the bullpen. They definitely stayed right. I also had Cruz and Berry. Those guys need to stay right pretty much every weekend. But against Missouri, their pitching staff didn't have great stats coming in, as we discussed. So I thought they were going to go nuts this weekend and really just hit all weekend. And that's what they did. Cruz went 5 for 13 with a home run. So that's 385 on the weekend. And then Berry, he may have a chance to be SEC Player of the Week. I mean, I have no idea what everybody else did on the conference in terms of the hitters. But on the weekend, he just hit a cool 600. I mean, that's pretty good where I come from. 6 out of 10 on the weekend with 3 bombs and 5 RBIs. So very impressive weekend for Mr. Berry. And I think him and Cruz just continue to lead this offense. Cruz looks like they're going to hit 1-2 or 2-3, depending on who's on the mound, with Doty backing them up. But those guys just continue to produce week in and week out at the top of the lineup, and really LSU needs them to. The last one on the stay right list, I had starting pitching. And I'll say I missed on this one. I thought about giving myself a push, but that's too easy. So I'll definitely say I missed. I touched on Hilliard earlier. He continues to do a great job in Game 1 of the series. But I think there's some question marks with the Game 2 and Game 3 starters moving forward. With Coach Johnson and Kelly pulling those 2 starters so early, I don't know what that means for the SEC series coming up. I don't know if they plan on moving somebody else into that role, like Floyd, who pitched well in the midweek, and I assume he's going to start Tuesday at UNO. I don't know if they're going to give Taylor a chance to start. I just don't know what they do at that point, or if they just continue to roll with the 3 they have been and just assume, it's going to be all hands on deck for the Game 2 and Game 3. So, I mean, that could be an issue moving forward. The deeper we get into SEC play, I just think that's a lot of innings to ask the bullpen to continue to eat up week in and week out. And that's just a lot of pressure, and you just wonder, the hotter it gets later on in the season, if you just wear those guys out a little bit and their stuff starts to kind of decline a little bit. Their velocity goes down, their breaking balls aren't as sharp, so that'll be something to keep an eye on. And I know the pitching coaches and the head coach monitoring their pitch count very closely. They like to keep guys under 30 pitches so they can make multiple appearances in the weekend. But we'll just have to see. When you're throwing 60% of the innings on the weekend, that's not great for the bullpen. So all in all, stay right. Got the bullpen, got Cruz and Berry, and I missed on the starting pitching. So I pretty much smashed it, guys. I'm going to say pretty much killed the get right, stay right list. Every now and then I get some right? Okay. Starting to wrap this thing up. What are the 3 big things we learned from the series this weekend? First, home sweep. Needed to protect the box. Really needed a sweep off of a 5-10 Missouri team. And in the end, they got it. So at times it might have been a little nervous for the fan base, but anytime you can get 3 wins in the SEC, we'll take it. I mean, you think about it. They swept State on the road, which is surprising. They got swept at Arkansas, which is probably a little surprising as well. And they may have kicked themselves after 1 or 2 of those games. I definitely think they should be. And then to come back and sweep Missouri, I saw a stat on Twitter where the only time that's happened was in 96. 96, we swept Georgia, got swept at Florida, and then swept Tennessee on the way when we came back home. So a little interesting stat. I think Todd Politz put that out on his Twitter, so I want to give him credit. So I did predict a sweep, but it's one thing to predict it and the other thing for the guys to come through. So the thing moving forward is, can they show consistency? You know, it's been a kind of an up and down SEC season for them so far. Just you look at the back half, they have Georgia, who's 11-7 coming in this weekend. Then you go to Bama, Ole Miss at home, who's scuffling, but they're still dangerous. And then you have at Vandy. So getting off to a 3-0 start in the second half of the SEC season is clutch right there. So home sweep. The second thing I learned this weekend, it was really good to see other hitters contribute. I mean, we have the big 4, right? You have Cruz, Berry, Morgan, and Doty. And those guys are very consistent. You need those guys to produce every weekend. But if you ever have a weekend where 2 of those guys aren't producing, it could spell trouble. I mean, that could be a serious issue. But it was good to see McManus step up, Joe Bear kind of come back to himself, running some balls out the yard. The 2 freshmen in Pearson and Stevenson, I thought those guys really played well this weekend. They had some clutch hits. And if you're an LSU fan, it's going to be nice to see those guys for the next 2 years because they're really going to develop and become cornerstones of this team and of this lineup. And they look, wise beyond their years per se, very mature physically, and their approach at the plate is good. They're getting thrown in SEC pitching, seeing older guys with a lot of velocity that they don't see in high school. So to me, their approach as freshmen and the ability for them to contribute has been really huge in the middle of the season for LSU, especially with Dugas going down, being hurt. So it's been nice to see those guys step up to the plate. No pun intended there. So, and the last thing I learned this weekend out of the 3 big things, number 3. So I touched on it, but moving forward, I think Coach Johnson and Coach Kelly are just going to employ an all-hands-on-deck approach to the pitching staff, especially in the bullpen. I think if LSU wins game 1 of the series, home or away, doesn't matter, Coach Johnson's going to do everything he can to win game 2, whether that's the second or the third game. Whenever he has a lead, he's going to do everything. It doesn't matter if he throws the whole pen. He'll throw 7 guys. He's showed that already to secure a 2 out of 3 series victory for LSU, home or away. That's what this weekend taught me. I think he'll use data and analytics and go lefty-lefty matchups. Or if he needs a strikeout, he's shown he'll bring in Raiselman or Gervais. And if he has to burn those guys, like Raiselman came in like in the 5th or 6th on Saturday, which is odd. So if he has to burn him early and then he has to, kind of quote-unquote figure it out later, he's going to do that. As long as he can get 2 out of 3 wins during the weekend, that's the goal of every SEC series, in my opinion. And he's shown that he'll do whatever it takes to do that. So I think it is what it is, and it should be something to watch moving forward. So, all right. What's next for the Tigers? So LSU travels to UNO on Tuesday to face Blake Dean, the old LSU Tiger there, to face his squad. And then Georgia comes into town. So we're back to a Friday, Saturday, Sunday series. Thank goodness I can't stand Thursday through Saturday. It is nice to have your Sunday free. But it was evident. I don't think the fans like it either because the box was not packed on Thursday. And Saturday noon starts aren't great for the box and their faithful either. People have kids and baseball games and basketball games or whatever. And I think I'm sure LSU doesn't have any say-so in it, but it was evident to me that Thursday, Friday, Saturday noon start is not ideal for the Tiger faithful. So maybe a little too early to get going on Saturday there after a long Friday night. So, but that's it for the upcoming week. And LSU, season's winding down very quickly. So LSU has to continue to, get consistent, stay consistent, and make some hay. Because the SEC West is still kind of a mess. A&M took 2 out of 3 at Arkansas this weekend. So I think you have a bunch of teams jumbled at the top and some teams that are clearly at the bottom. And it's going to be a race to the finish. So I think LSU put themselves in a really good spot this weekend. So, all right, guys. That's going to do it for me here on the 60 Feet 6 Inch LSU podcast. Please make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel, like and comment on this video. Make sure to check out the podcast on Apple, Google, and Spotify and other audio platforms. And be sure to follow and interact with me on Twitter. Once again, the account is at 60FT6IN LSU pod. I appreciate it, guys. I got some good things coming up. I got the logo situation worked out, so hopefully maybe I can get some merchandise out there to some people, and we'll just kind of keep going with this thing. Thank you for all the support, guys. Y'all be careful and stay safe.